Good day, folks, and welcome to Monitoring and Evaluation Made Simple. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. Today we're going to be talking about why monitoring and evaluation is important. I know a lot of you have an idea why monitoring and evaluation is important, but I want you to get it from me, and I want this to be more of a discussion. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that this is the first voice note that I'm posting on this YouTube channel. And like I earlier mentioned, the voice notes are a bit more rich in content compared to what you get in these normal videos I do. And I want this experience, I want this section of my M&D channel to be much more regular. I want it to be rich in content. I want you to feel like I'm actually in the room with you discussing any issue on monitoring and evaluation. Okay, so now let's get back to business. Why is monitoring and evaluation important? Well, to start with, it's simply because, okay, this is a discussion, okay, and this is my experience. You can read a lot of books, you can read a lot of journals, but ultimately the reason why monitoring and evaluation is important is because it's all about the money. Okay, that's it. You see, folks, I want to give you an example. Imagine you borrowed money from the bank, okay, and that money is taking away half your salary on a monthly basis. You know, you get money from the bank and the bank has to deduct half your salary. Okay, so now you invest that money and you entrust somebody to use that money to build a house for you. You entrust somebody. You say, look, here is this money. I'm busy with work. Help me build a house on my behalf. All right, so now that person gets your money, which you borrowed, hard-earned money, and he starts building the house for you. So now the thing is that you, as the person who's given him this money, you want to be receiving reports of the progress. You want to be seeing how far has the building gone. That is the issue. If you're not realizing your goals and dreams, ultimately what does that mean? You'll be disappointed, right? Exactly. So that was just a very simplified example, but it actually goes further than that. You see, when it comes to projects, especially projects that involve a lot of money, there is need to know exactly what this money is doing. This money which has been put into the project, is it achieving the intended results? Some people tend to overlook this, but really if you look at it deeply, you realize that it's all about the money. So donors, whether it's the US government, US aid, whether it's the Swedish government, whether it's the Irish government, when they pump money, they are demanding to see results out of their money. And the best way they can do that is through M&E. You see, monitoring and evaluation, there's something I want you to understand. It's not actually an audit. You know, audits, okay, I'm explaining an audit from a layman's perspective. I don't really know the clear-cut definition of an audit, of a financial audit. But in my experience, when there's an audit being done, they are simply coming in to check whether there is no corruption, whether the funds were used properly, whether the right procedures and policies were followed, okay? That is what I call an audit. That is what people do when they come and do a financial audit, okay? In short, in my view, a financial audit is more of a fault-finding mission, okay? But with monitoring and evaluation, it is not like that. It's a learning activity. So each time you engage in M&D activities, what you are simply doing is you are trying to get results, but then you're also trying to justify why should implementation of this program continue? What lessons can be learned as a result of this money being pumped in? What can we do? What can we learn from what we've done? So it all comes down to that. And that is why when a donor pumps in money and they hear that there's misappropriation of funds, they get really upset, like furious. I've seen donors suspend funding. I've seen donors ask for their money back simply because of misappropriation of funds. Okay, that is how serious it gets. So with monitoring and evaluation, we are saying we want to justify why we should receive this money, why this project is there. So now this is where sometimes we get it all wrong. Organizations that are implementing programs need to realize that they need a strong monitoring and evaluation system. It is sad to say that some organizations don't take it seriously. They don't invest enough into a system. You see, a system, let me tell you what a system is. It's a combination of things. If you look at our bodies, okay, you've got okay, I've forgotten my biology a bit, but I'm sure I'm accurate when I say this. There's the blood circulation system, okay? So now that circulation system comprises of the heart, of the blood vessels, and so on and so forth. So there are different components that make a system work. When you are going to set up a monitoring and evaluation system, the first thing you really need to understand is why is it there in the first place. A lot of people think that M&E is just there in the organogram of an organization, but they don't really understand why it's there. For instance, let me ask you this question. Why do you think we need to have a director in an organization? Why do you think we need an accountant in an organization? These are relevant positions. An accountant is someone responsible for money matters. He pays out salaries, he pays out people who are owing and things like that. So with monitoring and evaluation, we need to understand why is this system there? It's there for a purpose. And in a nutshell, an M&D system is there to answer the what, the why, the when, and how. Simple. Because if you say, for instance, you've created a project and you want to reduce poverty in the rural areas, the question is, how are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? What are you going to be doing? So it's really understanding relevance. And this is what some people fail to understand. And that is why you find that even when it comes to recruiting M&D personnel, we don't give it the attention it really deserves. And sometimes, and I've seen this a lot, you have this project officer who's assuming also M&D responsibilities. That shouldn't be the case. What we are saying is that there should be a clear distinction between an M&D officer and a project officer. These are two different things, people I mean. You don't need to be a PhD holder to be an M&D officer. I personally don't think you need to be masters. Bachelor's degree is fine. Postgraduate is okay. But the point is that when we are implementing M&D interventions, why are we doing so? It's because of the money. Because, for instance, if you look at US aid, for example, the United States of America are financing many projects around the world, many humanitarian projects. And ultimately, who is really financing those projects? It's the taxpayer. Taxpayers, let me tell you, I don't think taxpayers want to know whether the right procedure was followed in dispersing funds. But they just want to know that the money went for the intended purpose. Projects are running, poverty is being reduced, and so on and so forth. That is why monitoring and evaluation becomes critical. When you set up a budget, there has to be significant amount. So now I talked about the system, the M&D system. There are many components to it. The system is composed of, most importantly, the budget. It's composed of M&D personnel, guidelines, policies, as well as methodologies. How are we going to be doing these things? When you set up a strong M&D system, what are you really telling the world? You are telling the world, you are telling the donors that you have really committed yourself to doing the right thing. And that is where it all begins. We need to be able to do the right thing. What time should you be reporting for work? What should you be reporting to donors? The truth. That's the right thing to do. If, for instance, a project isn't doing well, we shouldn't be afraid to report what is not happening well. We shouldn't be afraid, because M&D should be objective. If you're just going to be reporting the good things, then you're not learning, because we learn from our mistakes. That's the learning curve. If you look at everything in this world, the skyscrapers, you look around you, you've got buildings, skyscrapers in some countries, you've got the fastest flying planes circulating all over the world, you've got the nicest vehicles. All these things, all these innovations took many years of success and failure to get where they are. So even with M&E, we should embrace both success and failure. So if, for instance, a project isn't doing well, we should be able to tell the donors that, okay, this is not doing well, this is doing fine. But there's a lot of pressure to have good results. Nobody wants failure. And that is where now the problem comes in, even with M&D personnel. Because if you have an M&D officer in your organization, he will be tempted just to report on good results, because he knows that if he's going to be reporting bad results, the donors may pull out, they won't even pay for his salary anymore. You see the point? So the temptation is there, but there needs to be balance, even with the donors. The donors, the implementing organization have to realize that it's all a learning curve. We shouldn't be too quick to achieve the best results within the shortest period of time. You know, when it comes to humanitarian work, we have to realize that poverty reduction doesn't happen overnight. It really doesn't happen overnight. It has to take some time. If you want to see poverty reduction happen within a short period of time, you need to pump in a lot of money. And usually the specialists, the ones who understand this better, will tell you that, okay, you can't reduce poverty within this time frame and with this kind of target group, because if you are looking at a district or a state is comprised of millions of people. So it becomes very challenging because of the amount of resources that you need to put into it. But sometimes it can work if you narrow the target group that fits your resources, your resource base. Poverty reduction, okay, I may be diverting a bit, but we are still talking about why monitoring and evaluation is important. So now poverty reduction is complicated. Okay, it's really complicated. The reason is that there are so many factors that cause poverty in certain places. Okay, but it could be that if you are going to pump in resources, if a donor is going to pump in resources believing that they can reduce poverty with these resources, then let them pump in that money. Do your job as an M&D officer, whether it's a coordinator, get the results and present them to them in an honest, concise manner. Okay, so now we've talked about why monitoring and evaluation is important. It's because it's all done because you are trying to justify why money is being pumped. You're just trying to justify why resources should be pumped into a certain project. That is why it's important. Okay. But there are other reasons why it's also important. Another reason why M&D is important is because, for starters, you are trying also to ensure that there is accountability. You are trying to ensure and build confidence in stakeholders that are looking at this project, hoping to see it have success. So in short, it's helping also gather information, gather data, and share it, which will help in the learning process. So now when you're learning, when this learning curve, this information we get, like I said earlier on, it creates innovation, because we cannot always be succeeding. There are times when we'll fail. failure should be embraced. Success should be embraced. And once we embrace both things, both ingredients, you'll find that the project, even when it comes to designing future projects, they'll come out looking better, and the success rate may be better than what you had before. So it helps also in improving project design. That is why it's important. That is why monitoring and evaluation is important. That is why we should be doing it. So now, supposingly you don't have the finances to implement a very, the ideal monitoring and evaluation system. You don't have those finances, but you know how important it is. What should you do? Well, there are many options, but actually there are limited options without money. So that is why if you approach a donor, you need to be able to convince them that there is need for a unit. Okay, you need to convince them there is that need to have that unit in place. But supposingly they still don't want to spend money on hiring a monitoring and evaluation officer. Well, perhaps it could be prudent to factor M&E in the budget, not on a full-time basis, but perhaps getting someone as a consultant occasionally to help with that support. It could help. What others have done is, of course, consultants are usually, when you hear the word consultant, I mean, I've been a consultant before. Yeah. So I know what I'm saying. Yeah, the consultants are usually expensive, it's true. But it's just like, for instance, if you go to a shop, if you go and if you do your shopping from, let's say, France, you travel to France today, do your shopping from there, you might find the clothes there to be quite expensive if you did your shopping from another country. Not so. Because I mean, these prestigious well-developed countries, but even in the well-developed countries, they have their classes, they have the rich and the poor. So what I'm saying is that even if you have a limited, but there's always someone who can do the work, who has the right skills, given the budget you have. Okay? So there's always a way to bargain these things. There's always a way to negotiate. But all I'm saying is that we need to attach the importance that it deserves. All right. Now, I think I'll end here for today of why monitoring and evaluation is important. I sure hope you enjoyed this short voice note. I'm calling it voice note. It's a new, I can say it's a new way I'm going to be presenting. It's actually a section under my YouTube channel, and I sure hope you enjoyed it. And I sure hope you tune into more of these voice notes that I'll be presenting. The other kinds of videos will still be coming in, but these voice notes, like I said, will be much more rich in content. They will be more regular and much more lengthy. I've been your host, Coach Alexander, and see you on the other side. Bye.